So yes, thank you, Alistair, thank you, Steve, and thanks for inviting us along today. As Alistair mentioned, I'm Gary. I've got my glasses on so I can see. That helps. And this is Stephanie, and we're from Workbridge. So you know my home. Welcome to us. We want to tell you a little bit about what we do today. Although before I start, and maybe I should block this. It's easy. Does anyone know anything about us?
No.
Has anyone ever heard anything about Workbridge? Even if it's a little bit. Well, please, what do you know?
Oh, it's like an employment agency.
Was that after you read that, or?
I worked in a job agency place.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I was in the same.
Yeah, and that's, that is one of the, I suppose, big things for us is getting our name out there. I always like to ask that question first, just to see how it's getting out there, and whether it is. So it shows we've still got a bit of work to do, don't we? Yeah. So, that's on to the presentation. So we are the largest employment service for those with barriers to employment. And we like to use the word barriers because barriers can be all sorts of things. Not just disabilities and health conditions, but it could be transport in terms of getting to work and that kind of thing. So we kind of start with that. And our, so we help make a difference in people's lives. I think that's kind of the big thing here. And thousands of Kiwi job seekers every year. And probably way more than thousands because we've been around since 1980. And our origins go way back to 1920. Returned servicemen from the war, World War II, injuries, that kind of thing. So it's kind of the origins of Workbridge right through to, I think it was called the Rehabilitation League, and then Workbridge from 1980. Do you want to press enter? Might get the next one.
Yeah.
Do you want to go now? Or
Yeah. So we try to solve recruitment needs for local employers, and we are a nationwide agency. Me and Gary work here in the Auckland area centrally. So what we do is we try to connect with employers so that they have the ability to have access to some of our skilled job seekers. So we just try to connect you, and that allows people who are participating in our employment service to have a fair go in the workplace, in any job that they are skilled to do. Yeah.
Just a note, if you've got any questions, have to answer them as and when, because there's a couple of slides on this, so I don't want you to kind of, think, oh, I've got to wait till the end. As we said, largest New Zealand employment agency for people with disabilities, over 22 service centres nationwide. So we're pretty much in most major towns across New Zealand. 4,000 fills up to 4,000 job vacancies each year. So that's I suppose vacancies that we get from potentially people that are here today, running businesses, that kind of thing. And I suppose that's the real key to how we work. We need people to help find work, but we also need businesses to give them work, and we want to be the broker in between, I suppose. Vitally important, both sides of how recruitment works, I suppose. Obviously tailor the services to everyone, to your business's individual needs, and to our people, and particularly how their barriers may impact on them getting and keeping a job. We do a lot of work to get our job seekers ready for work, before we will put them in front of any employer, basically let you know what skills they've got. In fact, one of our little catchphrases, around we focus on abilities, not so much disabilities. Everyone's got skills, experience, and qualification. That's really important. We're not going to ignore what a disability is and how it might impact on them being able to do the job. With their consent, we will tell you about those kind of things too, so you know what you're in for, and it's all up front, rather than hiding it. And we find that works really well. Look, I could go on here, but this is probably the next slide. So let's try that. Yeah, already. So, you want me to carry on?
Yeah, you go ahead. I'll take care of the job seeker side.
No, all good. So matching, that's what I was talking about, so that's actually sort of matching our people that we have in our books already to the, to the requirements of the role, if it's a vacancy that we've collected from an employer, and, doing that recruitment. Giving advice on interviews and making that recruitment process accessible. Yeah, look, that's an interesting thing. Some recruitment processes aren't really accessible for some of our clients. I think online applications are really, a big thing these days, but it can actually be really difficult for, let's say, someone who does have, learning difficulties, for example, and those, so, we do like, where we can, to negotiate, alternative recruitment processes, to help that are more accessible. But once again, that's something we kind of tend to do, once our relationship's probably more established. Because going in there when you first meet someone and saying you need to do this, doesn't always help. We can access funding, there is funding out there through the government that can actually provide the difference in any extra cost that someone with a disability might have in doing the same job as someone without. And an example of that might be someone who's deaf, whose prime way of communicating is through New Zealand Sign Language, which means, the biggest barrier will be communication in the workplace. So the extra cost in that is getting a New Zealand Sign Language interpreter to, for critical communication at work, like team meetings, meetings with your manager, those kind of things, the Deaf Aotearoa, which is specifically designed to support people with deaf, also provide awareness courses, so they can come in, we've had that in Workbridge too, where they can teach you a little bit of basic sign. New Zealand Sign Language is the third official language of New Zealand, so it's really cool to learn just some basics, so that deaf person who's working with you feels more included, in the workforce. And of course, you want everyone to feel included and part of the team. As well as the funding, we provide support, around helping you around reasonable accommodations. So once again, it comes back to what I said before around, letting you know what this person's skills, qualifications, and experiences, but also what the disability is and how it may affect them or impact them at work. And then, what kind of accommodations you might have to provide. In most cases, it's not going to cost you much time or money or anything like that. And it's part of our, well, I say after sales service, but for every person that we help find a job, we provide support, in and around their disability for 12 months from when they start.
Yeah, so you actually don't, for want of a better word, dish out money yourselves, but you know where to find them.
Yeah, we
coordinate it.
Yeah, we coordinate. Yeah, having worked in this industry, we know where to go. Yeah. And we know the process. We don't actually make a decision, but in fact, it's quite interesting this particular one. We did actually administer the funding for quite a long time. It's now been taken back to the government department that looks after it. So that's where you've got to go now. But because we've got experience in doing that, we know how it works. So post-placement support, as I said, I think this is the biggest thing, in terms of our help and how we can make a difference. It's that, 12 months post-placement support. So we're not just helping you find someone and then saying, see you later. We're actually around for 12 months. And that kind of support can be as much as little as a phone call now to go and see how everybody's going, to coming in and working out a plan and talking about things like reasonable accommodations and getting the funding sorted. So we find that work, that makes a big difference. And I suppose it's, we are funded not just on having beautiful work, but lasting work. That's meaningful. Okay, next.
Alright.
Me?
Yeah, go ahead. I'll do the last bit.
So we want to understand your business needs, so we can provide that good match. And you know, an example of that is you know, when I first see a business, if I can get a visual on like I was out at Fisher and Paykel, this is the distribution centre out in East Tamaki the other day, and they gave me a tour around that whole facility. Amazing. I'd heard of them, and I'd also heard that they weren't manufacturing anymore, but it's still massive, and they're building a brand new distribution centre that's going to be 3 times as big as what we've got. So you know, but getting that visual in terms of, you know, like watching the guys drive forklifts, you know, with the whiteware and that kind of thing, you know, it makes my job in terms of recruitment and being able to explain what the job is like to our clients so much better. So, and that's, I suppose, understanding the business, you know, in terms of how you recruit and you know, just trying to develop that relationship. Talked about post-placement support before. Yeah, and any feedback and timely. I mean, yeah, we do come across issues, you know, with our clients, and we do kind of act as a broker. We're not employment lawyers or anything like that. Our prime responsibility in these situations is around disability support or barriers or any other issues, but sometimes it can be that. And sometimes it can just be, you know, a performance issue. You know, just because someone has got a disability, it doesn't mean they can't not be that good at their job. So, and sometimes it's really hard to distinguish between the two. But you know, we try our best to do that. Yeah. So, yeah, obviously want to work with around timeframes too. Yeah, certainly have employees come in say they want someone yesterday. But you know, that's trying to understand your business and trying to work with that. Yeah, and I suppose really education is another thing that we find in this kind of, you know, post-placement, both. You know, there's a lot of myths out there around health conditions and disabilities and that kind of thing. So we kind of dispel those and really encourage people. I mean, look, 1 in 4 New Zealanders live with a health condition, disability. So, you know,
you can acquire a disability at any time in your life, mental health crises. Yeah. So that can happen to anyone. Yeah.
And yeah, you talk about disabilities, mental health, that's our biggest group. Yeah. So that's invisible. And, you know, it can be a disability that, you know, can go like this in terms of someone's work performance and the way they feel. So, yeah, it's a harder one to deal with, but it's a huge one. And, you know, probably even bigger after COVID, you know, with the isolation and that kind of thing. No questions? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just could you give us the best example you come across of what you've achieved with a person, a particular person, getting them back into the workplace?
Oh, okay. That's a great question.
You should have plenty of examples.
And in the past, I worked with a client who had epilepsy, and we developed a plan around an emergency plan, and disclosure around interview process that would be quite appropriate for them to let the employer know what their situation is and you know, what their plan was in case they had a seizure. The person got an interview and they got the job and they were doing quite well on the job, but then they had a couple seizures. And because the employer was made aware of that, he was able to keep him safe during the seizure. And Epilepsy New Zealand came in and provided some training on how do you handle seizures in the workplace. So not only did the employer have a chance to be educated on that and make sure that, you know, the person who had it, who he employed, but also the staff knew how to respond to the situation. And so that's one thing Gary was talking about, is connecting you to other specialists in the area, so staff gets additional training.
Oh yeah, we understand.
You know, and that's something that's really good. Gary's really great at doing that.
Yeah, I've been working with a lady by the name of Sasha who works for Epilepsy New Zealand, and she's kind of like the field officer for Central South Auckland, and you know, she probably would have been the same person that helped Stephanie in that particular example. But yeah, look, we know a little bit about a lot of disabilities and health conditions, but sometimes you've got to bring the specialist in. So, and in that case, yeah, that's Sasha's job, is to keep up to date with you know, all the different ways of managing epilepsy, you know, from medication to not drinking too much coffee and alcohol, and, you know, so it's, you know, there's individual ways of managing that to you know, to medication too, but it's also being consistent with that, you know, to keep working, yeah.
I would think the biggest challenge for every employer is understanding whether or not this person has got, irrespective of their disability, and I'd say it's more like a third of people are experiencing unmanageable, you know, periods in their life of unmanaged anxiety or depression, and it manifests profoundly in the workplace. But I wonder what you're doing to prepare people for the pure disciplines of employment, and that's whether or not they've got a disability, because I think that's where we've got a complete lack. I mean, I work in aged care, we employ people, do all the due diligence, but it's very common now, and I think working from home has reinforced it. There's a poor personal discipline for attendance, and in such a manner that you're ready for an 8-hour commitment to the employer and the group that you're serving. So how do you prepare people for that?
Great question.
I can answer it. So, yeah, that's good. So one of the things that we work closely with our clients is about positive disclosure to an employer based on their situation and their condition and the severity of that. And then we have what's called a bad day hair plan. So that's a strategy plan in the workplace, created to help make sure that, you know, when things go awry, this is what they're going to do to manage it, and they may disclose that to the employer. Oftentimes people who experience anxiety or depression may need time out of the workplace, so we talk about that ahead of time. You know, what are you doing to stay healthy during the job search as well as when you're in the job, you know, because that's so important, and to, you know, refer them to community resources so they get that help that they need, so they can continue to be working in the workplace. Did I answer your question?
There's another bit to that, you know, around discipline, the word you used, and look, anyone we engage in our services, we work in a partnership, so we expect them, you know, firstly to be actively looking for work, and as part of that, you know, we ask them to come in on a regular basis to see us, you know, and you know, I suppose we're always trying to, in doing that, gauge how willing and capable they are, you know, and willingness and capacity is a big thing for us, you know. If someone's not willing, then, you know, it's not really going to work in terms of us trying to help them in a partnership context. So you know, so I suppose once we have that, and we have, you know, like a record of them turning up on time, and we give people tasks to do in between appointments, and, you know, how well do they do that, and do they do it, you know? So this gives us an idea, I suppose, of you know, discipline in terms of how they can perform in the workplace, you know, because you're right, you know, whether they have disability or not, attendance is a huge thing, you know. I've talked to many employers about, you know, people just not turning up for work, you know. So yeah, I mean, there's still a risk. As much as we try and sort of mitigate that as much as possible, and then be able to send people that we can say, look, you know, from our point of view, they seem very disciplined, they've done everything we've asked them, they've turned up for every appointment, you know, like I say, these people will still be people.
I think to say the people we've employed who've had a declared disability and have been in a more supported manner guided into the workplace have been some of the more reliable employees. So it's a general comment about the fact that, you know, and our lived reality is people get 10 days paid sick leave from the day they walk in the place. And there's a cyclical behaviour now. People
I see it all the time.
intending to work, be paid full time but not attend.
And trying to maximise.
And it's problematic for employers.
Yeah.
So I think, and how do you think the going back to a 90-day trial period is going to work for you guys?
Well, we actually we do something less than that, because, you know, as a tool, and we can do it because we're involved, a trial. You know, and that can be a 1 day, a week. You know, generally not much more than that, but it's a trial before you buy for both sides. you know, and like I say, I don't know how legal it is in a general employment sense, but I know when we're involved, it's all right, you know. So because we offer it, and you know, I was talking to Hotel the other day, and you know, I had a lady that I wanted to refer to for housekeeping jobs, and you know, her background was retail, hadn't done it before, so you know, I sort of, you know, as I suppose a bit of leverage, I just said, well, how about it comes in, she tries one shift, and then we'll talk about what happens after that, you know. So yeah, so that's what we're doing next week.
Give them the opportunity to job shadow the job, you know.
Yeah, so yeah, and that's a response I got from Lauren about, you know, well, I'm not sure we can do that. Well, when we're involved, you can. So that's another way, I suppose, of trying before you buy.
Your expertise, or should I say, understanding of people's situations must be extraordinarily wide with the different people's ailments or positions that they find themselves. How do you go about upskilling yourself with that basic knowledge as to what their needs are and what their challenges are?
Well, we have internal training, you know, from those specialists that I talked about before. So we've had the Deaf ATRR in, we've had Epilepsy New Zealand, we've had Autism New Zealand. That was a really interesting one a couple of years ago.
Oh, that's a really
you know,
good session. Learned a lot.
A woman that actually is on the autistic spectrum who delivered the training, and it was interesting. She just, one of her reasonable accommodations before she came in was, please make sure you don't wear any overpowering perfume or aftershave, you know, because that mixed up with the senses, and they tend to
So this is excuse me interrupting. So this is pre-training as opposed to finding the information out as you need it.
Well, this is being a bit more proactive around getting.
Depending on your
getting
background,
yeah.
as an employment consultant, you might have more experience than maybe someone else in the medical field. Yeah.
Yes, I
But
mean,
you do learn as you go.
we use each other's expertise, but if we don't have it, then we'll go look for it and get trained on it. Yeah, definitely. And there's so much out there, you know, there's so much out there.
Yeah.
And I think the other thing too is that you know, when you get in a like autism awareness training, for example, it'll be quite general, and it might help in some respects, but you know, everyone's an individual, and you know, there's a spectrum. So you know, it's kind of like some things might help, but it's. I think it goes back to what Stephanie, you know, we put together an individual plan of how they're going to manage their disability, and you know, that involves.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit later.
Yeah.
Stephanie, you've talked about visual, auditory and physical disability. Do you also deal with intellectual impairment?
We
Yes.
deal with all disabilities of any type, so, and then we support them into open employment. So again, like we were discussing, you know, when we meet with that individual, we really get to know their situation and what their challenges are. And like Gary said, each person that we work with who's eligible for our services and want to participate, we want to know, you know, how they're dealing with the situation. We learn from them actually, you know, and if we need to get an expert opinion, then we'll do that, because we can't possibly be an expert in everything, and we aren't medical specialists. So we, you know, just try to cater to their specific needs and really help them prepare for that situation. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Cool. Yes.
Just a final one. Workbridge itself, is that a government agency or a private agency or a...
We're actually a limited company now. We're an incorporated society, but pretty much totally funded by the government. So as a contractor, and that particular contract is outcome based. So we get paid on different milestones along the journey of the service. A little bit to sign someone, a job seeker up, a lot more to write a plan in terms of how we see the pre-employment support, and then nothing until we actually help them find a job. So that, and look, we don't help everyone that we enroll get work, you know, and then we get milestones at sort of 3, 6, 9 and 12 months in work, you know, so some of those
And
revenue will be ages away, you know. Yeah.
how many people are employed by Workbridge?
I think at last count was around 90, yeah, across the country, yeah. So we got, how many we got in Auckland? 7?
Seven,
Yeah.
at the moment.
Yeah, 7, we're a little, yeah.
A
Actually,
little
we're
short,
looking for employment consultants, I thought I better get that out there, eh? Look, I'm seeing, I think we're looking for someone particularly down south, like Pakura, and I can't remember where the other one was, Central, maybe, but, yeah. So, sorry, I thought I'd get that one out quick.
Thank you.
Boss will love me for that. Yeah, no, it's, you know, I think, yeah, recruitment's, you know, it's a hard thing, and it's been hard for us too, so, but yeah, we,
Does Employment New Zealand refer to you?
Employment New Zealand, no, I haven't heard or seen from him, I know who you mean, yeah, no, but that, you know, that probably begs the question of why haven't we been back there, you know, so good point.
Because they could do with some decent screening services.
Yeah.
No, I don't, no, what I mean is the pressure people get off the unemployment benefit.
Oh, you're talking about working income.
Working income, sorry.
Yeah.
But it's also Employment New Zealand, yeah. But working income, sorry, yeah, they could do with support, I think better support for the people they put forward to.
Oh, we get that all the time, because
employers.
we're in working income branches, so we get that obligations to look for a job, you know, or whatever benefit you're on. We generally find that if we get referred someone through them and we take them on, that pressure goes off, because, you know, they're with us and they're paying us to do their work. And, you know, not everyone, but, you know, there's a percentage of our people that can only work part-time, you know, because of their health. And so there's no point trying to force them to a full-time job. I think, yeah, it's a real dilemma with working and place to work there. And, you know, it's that whole obligations to get a job, and, you know, because we're paying you money versus, you know, what your capabilities are, you know, and if you have a health condition, that, you know, that impacts too. So yeah, it's, but, you know, like I say, when people are with us, yeah, we talk to working income all the time, and they're generally happy with what we're doing as long as we are doing something. Because, you know, they pay us, so they want to know we're doing something.
We're not obligated to, you know, share anything with work and income, you know, but there are people who get referred to our program, but that's not who actually participates in the program. A lot of people refer themselves or through family and friends. So
And that's a big thing for us, and I suppose that's one of the reasons we're here today, is that we don't need to get referrals just from there. That's the easiest way to get it, but we can get referrals from wherever we like. So that is reaching out to the community, and and, you know, like I say, if we go on that kind of 1-in-4 ratio, someone's going to know someone.
We've got, living with us, we've got about 30 people under the age of 65 with disabilities.
Oh, really?
And the thing that shocks me is I could name 10 of those people who've come out of professions who, with a proper support, could be working 1 or 2 days a week. And it just seems immoral, really, that access for them into employment just seemed the door got slammed in their faces once their physical needs for care got to a certain level, and yet their competencies are so high, and they're so frustrated at not being able to work. And so I can see lots of opportunities. I mean, but they do need a sympathetic employment environment.
Well, that's our search, you know, for everyone. Trying to find employers that are, well, you know, understanding, I think, probably more than sympathetic, because, you know, they're still got to be able to do the job. And it is that balance, you know, and this is, you know, where we find ourselves a lot, you know, around employers' expectations versus their capabilities, and you know, we've had situations where we've just had to agree with the employer to let them go, you know, because it's just not working, you know, so, and, you know, as much as you don't want someone to leave a job, there's really no other way out, you know, so that's understanding, you know, employers' sides of the employment relationship. Could we do that one?
I think we kind of touched
that
on
one.
it,
I think when we get the questions, we covered sort of probably the next 3 screens.
So what our mission is, delivering inclusive, successful employment opportunities for people who are engaging in our employment service. And our vision is everyone who wants a job, the employer has the right to choose who's the best person with the qualifications and skill, who's the best fit for the job. So when we engage with employers on behalf of our clients, we want to make sure that they are able to competitively compete, you know, that they actually have the skills and qualifications needed for that job, you know, or we talk about alternative types of jobs that they can do with an employer. So we try to connect them as much as we can. So we try to create a positive social impact in the community. And as Gary said, we are fully funded. And so therefore we're free not only to people coming to receive our employment service, but any employer. So our services, you know, to try to help employers fill their vacancy needs, you know, and support them around taking on clients that we're working with. That's what we do.
Yeah, that's, I had Fisher and Paykel asked me how much it costs. Because, you know, because they do a lot of work with private recruitment companies, you know, so there's a cost involved, but,
Yeah.
Prepaid,
And that's a
so
plus
there's no
about
way,
Workbridge, you know, we may not be able to fill all your vacancies, but we'll give it a go, we'll post it, and then we'll try to job match people who have the skills and qualifications for the job that you're posting. So, you know, it's just an extra advertisement, so that's what we do. And if we can't do that, then we'll get your permission to share that with other agencies and other services, yeah. So we provide, basically what we're doing is we're supporting people who have barriers. So that's part of the criteria for people to be able to engage in our employment service. And we provide support with long-term sustainable solutions. So it's just not like a casual one-off job. That's why we provide the 1-year post-placement support for the person who secures work. And we do partner with employers locally and nationally. As Gary says, we've been partnering with Novotel for quite a long time. And we have other organizations, you know, we're not gonna throw out the big names, but, you know, we're working with them. So they're ticking that box of diversity, inclusion, you know, and things like that.
and look, we do get employers that just tick boxes, and we get others that are, you know, that really do want to help. And Novotel's an example of that. You know,
Yeah.
just with Lauren, she's actually on a disability inclusion board for the core group in Australasia. You know, so it's and she lives his family with disability too. So there's a, you know, an investment that way. Yeah. So I mean, I tell you what, that really makes a big difference for us. You know, when employers, you know, either live with disability themselves or have family, that just seems to be the little difference that makes a big difference for us. Yeah.
So part of our criteria is that you've got to be living in New Zealand, you have to be a permanent resident or a citizen of New Zealand, you have to have something going on, an impairment that affects you for 6 months or more, you're either a school leaver or you're between the ages of 16 to 64. And so what we do is we work with you if you're eligible and preparing for work. So I'll go right into that. So when someone contacts Workbridge, the point of contact, the first point of contact would be to meet with them, talk with them about what they know about Workbridge, their employment or unemployment situation, their challenges that they're facing, you know, and we explain what we do as part of our employment services, post-placement services, and the eligibility criteria. So we give them as much information about what we do and how we could support them. And then when we're given that information, we'll come back in a couple of days, and if you're eligible, we'll let you know either way, and then we'll ask if you want to participate in our free employment service. If you do, then we'll make an official appointment and meet with you and develop what we call an individual employment plan. So that's where that uniqueness part comes in that Gary was talking about earlier. And as we're getting to know you, a lot of people come to our services and they may be new in the workforce, or they might have had a situation where they can't do the type of work that they used to do. So part of that service would be helping people kind of discover what they can do based on their skills and experience, and that would be part of your individual employment plan. And then part of that is also developing steps that will help you get closer to achieving employment. So some of the things in the, we call it a job map plan, would be not only identifying the type of work that you want to do, if you want to work full-time, part-time, but also, you know, what are some of the barriers or challenges you're facing now that maybe are affecting you from getting work? So we build a plan around how we're going to try to remove those barriers, and then we help you start preparing for work. So we provide job preparation, and part of that is helping people create or update or use their CV so it matches the job and the industry in which they're applying for. And it's, you know, up to date, because that's so important when you're applying for work. And we help you with cover letter assistance. We'll help you practice for interviews, and we'll develop that disclosure statement and that bad day hair plan. So what are you going to do when things go wrong while you're interviewing or on the job? And then if you do secure work, then what we do is we'll, as Gary said, we'll support you up to a year in the job. So we'll confirm your work information, and we'll develop what's called that post-placement plan. So the next 3 months, how often would you like us to make contact with you, check in, make sure things are okay? If you have any issues, then we would, you know, try to discuss that. If we couldn't help you, we weren't the expert, that's when we go and try to get some other help from a specialist who maybe specializes in those concerns, keeping it general.
That's 12 months from the first job you get to. So if the
Yeah.
first job doesn't work out and you get another job, it's 12 months from the first one, when the
Yeah.
first one starts. So I've had some people who've been in 3 jobs in 12 months. So yeah,
I mean, it happens, doesn't it?
Yeah,
And more and
so-
more people are switching jobs, so
Yeah.
we try to
Yeah,
keep them
we got
employed.
We do need to wrap it up.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
So we've got some folk that need to get going this morning.
Oh, hey, last
So
one.
that's really it. So we've left our cards, and if you know anyone who you think would benefit from the service or your business and you want to have a further chat, we'd love to come out, meet with you, get to know your business needs, and possibly help you fill some vacancies. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for having us.
Just before you finally pack up, you two, Stephanie and Gary. First of all, wanted to thank you very much for coming out this morning so early, before your normal job, to come to our little meeting here in our little venue. But we do appreciate that. I've enjoyed this morning, and I didn't know anything really about Workbridge. But I wish I'd been around years ago when I first started work in the 1950s.
Yeah.
We just had to get up and go to work and get on with it, and we didn't have any extra help or anything like that.
No.
We just had to motivate ourselves to do it ourselves.
That was that.
And
Yeah.
today, people, some of them don't seem to be able to do that.
Working ethic.
With ethic, yes, my father always
Yes.
said, first time I got my job, right, so much board, put it on the mantelpiece every day. Now, went home about 2 months later and said, I've got a little pay rise. Good, board goes up. Yeah, so it's like that,
Smart
hard work
words.
all the way. But with you talking, your motives are the same as Rotary's. When
Oh,
you said making a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. That's what Rotary does. We
Yeah.
tries to make difference in people's lives by doing the projects we do. So
Well,
we
that's good.
really appreciate
Quite aligned.
your talk this morning, because it brought back memories of there are people that like us and you that try and help people.
Yeah.
Must make you feel very, very good in yourself.
Yeah, well, that's, you know, it gives you the warm fuzzies inside, and then it's kind of what we, you know, what we love. It really makes a difference for us, you know,
Warm
when we've got
fuzzies is
some
what I
parts to
call it.
play in
Yeah.
someone's life, you know, and work is a huge thing, you know, for people, yeah.
So just a small token tonight.